Now, the mechanic or the gameplay thing that I want to talk about that I found in a JRPG that I played recently, and I'm going to be talking about the JRPG more in the what I've been playing section, but I tried out a game called 999. It's actually not called that. It's called like 9 people, 9 hours, 9 something. It's something like that, but everyone refers to it as 999. It's one of the Nonary games, which is like a trilogy, I believe, right now. I believe the newest game came out like pretty recently, and I was gonna buy the newest game because it was on sale, but I ended up getting this first because it is the first game, and I played through it. I'm not gonna be talking about that right now, but one thing that I love about this game is it is technically a visual novel game where it's telling a story, and I've always wanted to try a visual novel game because I play games primarily for the story, and so if a game has a really fucking good story, everything else can be like slightly worse and I really wouldn't care. And so when I think about visual novel games, I'm like, this should be perfect, right? Like, visual novels are literally visual novels. They're meant to tell a story, even though the gameplay may be more lax compared to other games. But I never got into it because every type of visual novel game I tried, the gameplay aspect of it was like not that fun to me. One of the ones that I remember, which I believe it was called Utoware Rumono, I think. It was pretty much a visual novel game, but the gameplay aspects of the game were pretty much these grid-based battles, and those battles were way too fucking intense, and I did not like it at all. Where like a battle would straight up take like 2 hours to do, and then whenever I was done, I was like, oh cool, let's get back into the visual novel side of things. But then almost immediately after the battle, they would give me like another 2-hour battle, and then I was kind of done with that game. Whereas this game, 999, their gameplay style, or like the gameplay aspects of the game, other than the visual novels, are actually escape rooms. And that's a long-winded explanation of me saying I want to talk about escape rooms for the JRPG mechanic. So pretty much 999, it is a game where it is a visual novel. You're pretty much being told a story. It is just like, you know, text and visuals of the characters and stuff like that. And whenever there is actually a moment to actually play something, it is just an escape room. There's nothing else gameplay-wise. And I fucking love that because as a kid, I used to play escape room games all the time on the internet. I used to just Google free online escape rooms and play that. I used to play with my brother or cousin. Sometimes we used to get together, put it on the TV or something, and play an escape room game. So escape room games are something that I've always loved, but I never ever thought about escape room games being a type of gameplay that you can have in an actual, in quote, game, because again, as a kid, I was already just playing like flash games of escape room games, and some of them you can tell like they were made in like MS Paint or some shit, and those are some of my favorite games that I've ever played because they were just so fun to play. And so the fact that there's an actual like proper game with a proper story that uses escape rooms as its kind of main source of gameplay, I thought was very interesting, and I really love that for this because for the other visual novel games I tried in the past, like I mentioned, that whenever I went to the gameplay, I was kind of like, I don't really want to do this right now. Where with this, sometimes I did have that feeling where I didn't want to kind of, you know, use my brain that much. But for the most part, whenever I got to the escape room part of the game, I was pretty excited because I love escape rooms and doing them are pretty fun. And so, yeah, I just thought it was a great balance. And the more I thought about it, I was like, maybe escape rooms can be implemented in more games, because there's kind of a trend with recent games where they're trying to, in quotes, artificially extend games by adding a lot of mini games. We saw this a lot with Spider-Man 2, where like they have like a fuck ton of random science mini games, which I personally don't have a problem with, but I know a lot of people did. And when I think about escape rooms, I'm like, if games just made a system for escape rooms, I think that would be a lot more interesting type of mini game compared to the ones we may get in something like Spider-Man 2, because not only is it, I think, fun, you kind of have like this natural flow and like intuitiveness where like you're trying to investigate this location and get out. I think that's a very, you know, intuitive experience that everyone can probably relate with. And when you have that, you also get things that come with it, like you can naturally get some lore and story out of it, where if you're inspecting a room pretty in depth, you can probably find some clues about whatever the story is about. For example, if you're playing a game and you're sneaking into someone's apartment for some fucking reason to like investigate them, just from exploring the room and finding stuff, you can probably get to know them. Like if you find like a random picture of their family, or if you find a journal that they've written, or if you found certain types of posters or games that they play, you get to know about them in that way. So having a mini game play through an escape room type gameplay, I think, is a good way for you to learn lore about a person or a place or a thing in that game. And I just wish that more games had it, because of me playing through 999, I was like, damn, escape rooms work pretty well in like a normal traditional game. And when I thought about it, if you built the system for the escape room, which honestly is pretty simple, I remember like years ago, I actually did build my own kind of like gameplay base for escape rooms, and I was kind of into making games, and it wasn't too hard. It wasn't great, obviously, but like for an actual developer making the system, it is a lot simpler than like some would think. And if games added escape rooms here and there as a form of minigame, I think I would enjoy it. And so yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about escape rooms. I just think they're a very interesting type of mini game to have. They're very intuitive, where like you don't really have to explain too much, and you can get the kind of almost like free lore and story through it, and you don't even have to have dialogue really. You could just have it through the objects you find and inspect. But yeah, escape rooms and JRPGs, very cool. I've been loving it in 999. I've been loving it a little less so in the second game. I'm pretty much done the second game too, which I'll be talking about in a future episode. But yes, escape rooms are dope.